about you, know it feels good to be alive. I was alive and I waited. I was alive and I waited for this. Right here, right now. There is no other place I wanna be. Right here, right now. Watching the world wake up from history.
Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Hypothetically Speaking. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the ballistic evidence from the crime scene in Butler, Pennsylvania. I was working in the 3D model and looking at some aspects of it, and there's some things that caught my eye that I think are important to share with you guys. So we're going to be looking at the 3D model. We're going to be looking at some footage that was recorded by Chopper Dan out of Pittsburgh. We're going to be looking at some footage that was recorded by Benny when Benny Johnson went on site and went up on the roof of the facility. And we're going to work in the 3D model together and take a look at what does the ballistic evidence indicate. I'm John Cullen. Welcome to Hypothetically Speaking. Let's get started.
There is no other place I wanna be. Right here, right now. Watching the world wake up from history. Right here, right now. There is no other place I wanna be. Right here, right now. Watching the world wake up.
I was working in the 3D model that Bill had put together, and there's an aspect of it that caught my eye, and that is the perspective from the shooter on the roof of AGR. American Glass Research is the company who owns that building, or who did own the building, what have you. We all call it AGR, American Glass Research. And the shooter on the rooftop, whether you think his name is Thomas Crooks or Max Urich or whatever you think his name might be potentially, the issue here is his orientation. And as a prone shooter, so somebody who shoots in the prone position, I can tell you that when you set up to take a shot, you're going to set up your body at the target. You're going to line your body up at the target. And in this case, if the target is President Trump, he is kind of between those yellow cranes down there. That's about 152 yards away. And again, the issue is the orientation of the body. And in the 3D model, we have the body of the rooftop shooter oriented along the same line as the shots would be towards Trump, and that's kind of the way it would be or should be. Let's continue, because when you look at the photographic evidence, we see the dead body. So this is immediately after he is shot and killed, and we see the dead body lying in the grooves, so to speak, on the roof. So the rooftop has these grooves in it, and it does not appear that he is lying, in some way catty-corner to those grooves. It appears he's lying in the grooves. And when the police get to the rooftop and address the body is in the grooves. So we see these ridges along the roof, and you see a cap line, a roof cap. And the ridges are parallel as they go along the roof, and the body of this shooter is in the ridge line, and the blood trail is down that singular ridge, and the orientation of the body is parallel to those ridges. And later, we're going to take a look at some footage that Chopper Dan filmed. Chopper Dan's out of Pittsburgh, and Chopper Dan filmed footage later in that evening, so right before it got dark, I guess at dusk, of the shooter on the rooftop with no police there, it appears that they abandoned the body and they abandoned the weapon. And that causes all kinds of problems from an admissibility of evidence perspective. So the fact that we'll look at this footage in a minute. So the notion that the body on the roof was abandoned is kind of a big deal. And I don't think anyone has addressed that until now. I addressed it on X this week, but this is the first time I'm making a video talking about the fact that the police were up on the roof and they were guarding the body at one point, and then I don't know if it was happy hour at Bennigan's or TGI Fridays or shift change, but they all left. And the issue here is they didn't just leave the body unguarded, they leave the weapon unguarded, and the body's uncovered. That means birds can start pecking at the body, pecking at the wounds, pecking at the eyes. This is unreal. And any of you who are watching who are in law enforcement, leaving a dead body outdoors uncovered and unguarded, an unguarded crime scene, this contaminates the crime scene. Now the crime scene is no longer considered contiguously, the control of the crime scene was not contiguous. This is a mess, and we'll take a closer look at this in a second. So again, the perspective from the shooting location is what we're talking about, and the shooting location is where the body is. The trail of blood, and they don't move the body from here. They check the body, they check his pockets, but for the most part, they're attempting to not move the body. And so the trail of blood that we see down that groove gives us a pretty good idea of where he was when he was shot, where he was when they arrived, and the orientation of the body as they arrived. He's just simply standing over the shooter. And the film that TMZ licensed, we see him kind of scamper up the roof. The camera moves around a whole lot, and then we see him dead in this position. So this seems to be pretty consistent with this, and that's that. And so that is going to drive a lot of what we're about to talk about. So let's go to the footage that Benny took, because Benny went up on the rooftop. And in doing so, I don't think Benny realizes how important this is. So Benny goes up on the rooftop, and let's listen to what Benny has to say about the scene. So this is the crime scene. Let's have Benny walk us through it.
Of blood from Thomas Crooks still visible on the building, where the assassin was able to shoot directly at President Trump from this exact...
Okay. Ta-da. That's it. How his body is lined up is in that groove. That means he's oriented that way. And that orientation, if you look out there, is straight at the red buildings, right? That's the barn. And that's where the other team of Secret Service Hercules snipers, counter snipers were, is on this far barn rooftop. And his body is aimed and aligned directly at that. Let's watch.
Shoot directly at President Trump from this exact position.
See, President Trump is out to the right. And when you are prone and shooting, you don't kind of set up and then try and turn to the right, especially if you're a right-handed shooter. And we know he's a right-handed shooter because we see him shoulder the weapon in the TMZ footage. And he's shouldering the weapon at his right shoulder. So if you have the weapon on your right shoulder and you're trying to look through the optic, he's got a red dot optic, turning more to the right really pinches you up on your right side. If you had to turn to the left, that's actually a lot easier. But the weapon is here in your right crook of your shoulder. You've got your head tilted down to the right to get a cheek weld on the stock. And now to rotate more to the right is not just uncomfortable, it's unlikely. It's like nobody does this. And it was the first shot that hit the president's ear. So some sort of contorted setup to get it just doesn't add up. So let's continue.
You can see right there in the field, that's where President Trump is. I'm just on iPhone magnification. This is how close the president was to the assassin. This is 100 yards, one football field, right here.
It's 152 yards, but Benny went there, so I'll cut him a break. The point here is that these ridges in the roof line are not lined up with the president. The ridges in the roof line are lined up with the Hercules counter snipers on that barn, the red barn roof. And it appears that's how he was oriented. Let's take a look at the footage from Chopper Dan. So Chopper Dan went out there. Let's take a look at what he filmed.
Suspected gunman, according to a law enforcement official briefed on the investigation.
All right, so this is the aerial footage showing the body. And again, for me, what's important here, besides the fact that the body is abandoned and there's no police guarding it on the roof whatsoever, the other issue is how it's perfectly parallel to the grooves formed by those ridges in the roof. So this is how the body is found. This is how the body is abandoned, which is sort of, a whole nother topic in and of itself. We see that there's a whole lot of police cars down here. So, obviously the cops are somewhere in the vicinity. It looks like maybe somebody's standing here by the front door. But there's nobody up on the roof with the body, and there's nobody up on the roof with the gun. And if it wasn't for Chopper Dan, I don't know that we know this.
According to a law enforcement official briefed on the investigation.
So you see the backpack. You can see the gun. The gun is there. You see the body is there. I mean, what are these guys thinking? They just leave and they don't leave one guy up there? That's just unreal. And if they're going to do that, they don't cover the body with a shroud? This is kind of crazy. Again, I know a lot of you guys are former law enforcement, and you're watching this and going, this is kind of hard to believe. This is a bit nuts. So, again, I think that the footage from Benny really establishes that the way the body is aligned really is lined up with that far red rooftop barn. And what we're going to do is go into the 3D model and take a look. But before I do that, I want to play the footage for you from the body cam of that superhero cop. This is body cam 122110. This is the cop who drives up, goes up on the roof. Supposedly the guy aims at him. He falls down, runs around to the front, goes and gets his weapon, ends up on the roof. He's one of the first 4 or 5 cops up there, and we're going to watch his video now. So let's take a look at the body cam 122110. This is a superhero cop, and again, we're watching this more about the orientation of the shooter's body as the cops are first arriving on the scene. So that's why we're going to take a look at this. Let's go. Let's take a look. All right, look at the orientation of the body immediately. All right, so you see the trail of blood as he's walking up on the roof. You see the trail of blood is in one groove. It's not in any other groove. And you see that the body is parallel with these ridges. You see you've got a SWAT type guy in battle fatigues standing over the body. He's aiming his weapon. So we got 2 guys in camo colored fatigues, 1 guy in black fatigues. And you can also kind of see from this angle that these ridge lines line up with the barn on the far roof. You can also see that the closer team of counter snipers are blocked by the tree. This was something I talked about with Brett the first time when I went on Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein. We were talking about that tree, and I was showing him in Google Earth that there was a tree in the way. And he says, well, how do you know the tree's really there? And that kind of stuff. So there's the tree. And the point here is the body is pointing at that far team of counter snipers, not at Trump. And in order to shoot at Trump from this angle, you would kind of, have a shooting mat or something, or just set up across the ridges. I mean, you just, you wouldn't do it that, I don't know. This is just a super uncomfortable setup. But let's go back and continue to watch this footage.
Yeah. You want that here?
Where's your gloves at? Where's your gloves at? Whew, fuck.
So you got 4 guys on the scene. All right. So Michelle's not there yet. There's 4 guys on the scene. You got superhero cop. He's the one who's not wearing a tactical helmet, and he's filming. So we're seeing his footage. What's interesting to me here is the guy who is standing over the body. He's got a camera, and it's his footage that we see in the first stuff that was released by Chuck Grassley. So I'll play that for you guys in a second. When Chuck Grassley released something early on, it was from that guy's helmet cam.
So we don't know. So this is the guy that
Yes, that they sent yes, Beaver County Sniper Scene and sent the pictures out. This is him.
Okay, all right.
Rifle's right there, obviously.
Got it. So the bike in the back, is he on that bike?
We don't know.
We don't know. So
I
we're
don't
just
know.
treating that as suspicious device.
Oh, 1 second. I believe the sniper that seen these and sent the pictures is right inside this building. Michelle, is Greg in there? All right, so if you go to that window that's open and yell for Greg, that's the sniper that sent the original pictures and seen him come from the bike and set the book back down and then lost sight of him.
Okay.
But it starts way later when the gray suit guy is on the roof. And I want to see it when he first approaches the body. And for some reason, we're not getting to see that. So we're going to have to get, I guess, Clay Higgins, who's on the official committee, to get us that footage, or Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania. So the net of it is the helmet cam of the guy who's standing over the body. That's what Chuck Grassley published. And I'll show that to you guys in just a second. But let's go back. So this is Superhero Cop 122110 body cam. This is the guy who climbed up on the roof, fell off the roof, ran around the front, got his rifle, comes up. Now here he's passing the backpack. So the backpack is here. And let's watch it again.
Yeah. You want that here?
Where's your gloves at? Where's your gloves at?
I just noticed something.
Yeah.
I can't tell. Is that a smear of blood next to the gun or no? It doesn't look that red. It just looks dark, right? It's just a dark spot. So here's the weapon. The weapon is 1, 2, 3, 4 channels away from the body. So that has been moved by one of these cops. I'm assuming, one of these guys in the helmet, because the guy who's filming is the 4th guy to arrive on the scene. There's no other cops in the vicinity of the body right now.
You want that here?
Also, what we can tell if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see what time this is. So as far as the official clock. So this is about 6 minutes after the shots went off. So this is about 6 minutes later. Let's go back and capture this part. All right, now watch what they're going to do with the body. They're checking the body. They're talking about handcuffing the body.
Yeah. You want that here?
Where's your gloves at? Where's your gloves at? Whew, fuck.
Right on the side, right here.
Yo, fuck. Whew.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, we got you. 1305, they're real aware. Roll over.
I think that might be Michelle Nichols is finally up on the roof. So the orientation of the body, the fact that there's a tiny bit of blood in the channel to the right, but that could be from, spurting up in the air or whatever. It's pretty clear that his body is lying in the channel. It's how they address the body as they get up on the roof. It's how we see the body in the photograph that we looked at earlier. So, for all intents and purposes, it appears that his alignment is such that he's aiming more towards the barn than towards Trump. So to be aiming towards Trump, he'd have to be kind of crossing these ridges, and that's not what we see. He's this way, and that means he's aiming that way, and that introduces a whole new twist here, which was the kid on the roof, was his assignment to shoot at the counter snipers like the guy in the trees. In other words, if we've got a guy in the trees shooting at one team of counter snipers, is it a stretch to expect that there would be someone else shooting at the other team of counter snipers? Well, the illusion here is that because this is the shooter everybody's aware of, everybody assumes this is the guy shooting at the president. But it appears to me that his job was to shoot the other counter sniper team on the far roof. They got one guy in the trees shooting at the team on the closer roof that's hidden behind this tree here. This kid is shooting at the far team, and somebody else is shooting at Trump. It's a whole different angle here. Someone else is shooting at Trump, not the kid on the rooftop. So let's go to the model, and let me show you kind of how this comes together in the 3D model of the crime scene. And I think you'll get a better understanding as we do that. So we're going to go over to a tool called Babylon. It's a viewing tool, and I'm going to be using Babylon and just kind of walking you through its capabilities and what it does and how it works and what we're looking at here. So this is the crime scene. This is the Butler, PA crime scene recreated in a 3D mapping software model, so that we can look at different perspectives, figure out who was where, what happened where, and it's a very, very powerful tool in order to be able to kind of what if, to visualize, well, what if there was a shot coming from there? What might that look like? And if there was a shot coming from here, what might that look like? And if there was someone standing over here, what might that look like? And could we put a camera over there to see what the view would be from that point? So that's why this 3D model becomes so important. And again, what I'm going to do is kind of step you through it to get a better understanding of what may have been going on at this crime scene. So we've got a number of different kind of capabilities in this tool. I'm going to kind of step you through one at a time so you can understand stuff better. So over here on the left-hand side, I'm looking at the menus now. And the first thing that is kind of important is I've got a whole bunch of different cameras. And the cameras are positioned in space at the scene to give us different perspectives, different viewpoints. So right now I'm using what we call the default camera. It's the overall camera. But we've got a camera in different places. We've got one at the podium. So here's a podium camera. And the podium camera focuses on the podium. The rectangle here represents the height of Trump's ear. So when the bullet hits his ear, we needed to set the height, and that height is set by this particular rectangle. So we've got different cameras in different locations, and I can zoom in, I can zoom out on these different cameras. This one focuses on the podium, and we can move around in this camera a little bit, but it's really focused on the podium. We've got another camera at the south bleacher. All right, so this camera has a slightly different perspective. All right, so this is kind of looking into the bleachers, and from here we'll be able to see where Copenhaver and David Dutch and those folks were standing. Here we've got a water tower camera, and the reason this is important is to understand, well, what would the perspective be if someone was on the water tower? And by placing a camera on the water tower, we see that the Jumbotron is blocking the view of the podium from the top of the water tower. And that's really important. So that means that someone who would have been on top of the water tower would not have had a clear shot at the president while he was at the podium. Okay, so that's important to understand. Then we get to a camera that's located where Corey Comparatori was. So this is the view that Corey Comparatori had of the president where Corey was standing in the bleachers when he got shot. So we position the camera there. So this is where Corey Comparatori was standing, looking at the president when he's hit. The next camera is a stage area camera, and this again gives us sort of a viewpoint of the scene that we can then move around, we can swing around, we can get a different perspective here. Another camera here, we call this the sniper cam, and this is up on the rooftop. So we position this to get a view of these guys who are up here and what they're doing, and we'll take a closer look at them in a second. And then we've got a camera position where David Dutch was standing. So this is the location of the camera is give or take, within a foot or so of where David Dutch was. And so he's standing here. We've got James Copenhaver near him, who was actually filming. So the footage, if you guys have seen the footage on Fox of the guy running across the rooftop, James Copenhaver filmed that. So that's kind of wild. Let's see, from here, so those are all the different cameras we have. Then we've got different trajectories that we can look at. We also have a camera here, and this is looking at the shooter and the shooter on the rooftop. And it was this orientation of the shooter on the rooftop that kind of, I just started looking at it and going, wait a second. This is not how we found the kid. He's not like that. And to line up this way and shoot that way, because I shoot prone, I know that's uncomfortable and difficult. So there's other aspects and other pieces here. So we've got trajectories here. And the trajectories are basically the shots. So each one of these represents a different shot that would have been taken from the rooftop. The assumption was that this person on the rooftop was shooting at Trump, right? And so boom, 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 boom. We've got all of these shots coming in from here. And let's zoom out a little bit. And that these shots were being taken at Trump, and that some of them were missing. Right, and so as they were missing Trump, they were hitting Copenhaver or Dutch or down in this corner of the bleachers, right? So this was the original assumption, and that one of these shots hits Trump's ear. So let's go look at the stage area cam, and we can get another view from this perspective, and we'll swing this around towards Trump. And then we'll zoom in a little bit more. So the idea here is that one of the shots hits Trump's ear. That's the pink one. And then the rest of the shots miss. And one of the shots would have hit Corey Comparatori in the head. Right? So that's the concept. This would be the view from a little bit above the rooftop. Let's go through the different views we have here of this scene. So this is from way up high, and you see this is where the kid on the roof would be shooting towards the president. Here's the podium cam. So this is showing the shots whizzing by the president and then ending up down here in the bleachers, hitting David Dutch, hitting Copenhaver, and that's kind of legit, right? Now, were there 8 shots taken from the rooftop? I don't know. I mean, I'm not so certain there were 8. I mean, we're told there were 8. I don't know that we've seen 8 brass casings or seen the ballistic testing. From the water tower, it kind of looks like this. So again, it's kind of a distant scenario from the water tower. If you were on top of the water tower, you would be able to see the kid, though. So you could see the shooter on the roof pretty easily. But the ballistics don't work. Like, the kid was not shot from this angle. So nobody on the water tower shot the kid. That's for sure. I can say that. Now, this is the camera, the Corey cam. Then we go to the stage area. Here we go. So again, this is looking at Trump. You see how it would cross where Corey was, Corey Comparatory. Now, we've got different trajectories here. We've got different cameras here, but we also can put the people and the locations of the people. So Corey Comparatory is right there. So that's where he was. David Dutch, let's swing around to the David Dutch side. Here we go. David Dutch, we'll put him in here now. So that's where David Dutch was, rough and tough. James Copenhaver over here. We've got the lucky guy who's in the corner, right? That's where he's standing. And we can put all the other people out there. So let's put the snipers on the rooftops, all the different pieces here, and we'll put them out. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff now. And now we'll get a better sense. And then here's Trump and the pieces of Trump. Okay, so now we'll be able to see a bit more about, you know, where these people were. And you see the rectangle represents the height of the shot. The idea is to have it just clip the top of that. That's where his ear height is. This is where Corey was. So we've got these various trajectories turned on from the roof. And let's go back to the building. So the issue here is this notion of his alignment introduces the idea that maybe he was on the roof shooting, but maybe his shots were not towards the president. And what that means is the kid on the roof may not have hit or wounded anyone, because the Hercules counter snipers did not get shot. And if this kid is aiming down there, downrange towards them on the rooftop, nobody down that way got shot. So what that would mean is Dutch, Copenhaver, the president, and Corey Comparatory were all hit by a different shooter shooting at the president. Or David Dutch and James Copenhaver may have been hit by the same shooter that was shooting from the trees. In other words, are we certain that David Dutch and James Copenhaver's wounds came from AGR at all? Maybe their wounds entirely came from the tree line, and that's where they were hit from. I don't know. It may be a combination of the two, because if we hear bang, 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 we hear a bunch of shots, we know they're missing the president, right? The president only gets hit once. So it's possible these guys are getting hit by multiple shooters. And we know we've got suppressed gunfire happening at the same time. So now, with this new evidence, we have to reconsider that we don't have 8 shots coming from this guy at all, number one, towards the president, meaning. But maybe he's taking 5 shots and the first 3 are from somewhere else. Remember, the first shot, it's the president's ear. Bang, bang, bang. We hear the first 3 shots, the president's already been hit. Then we hear bang, 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 bang. I think that may be the kid on the roof shooting at the counter snipers like a madman. But we see Copenhaver get hit during that second volley. And I think we're pretty certain that that's when Corey Comparatory gets hit as well. So it seems like we've got multiple shooters here shooting from different angles, or at least that's what it appears like to me. I could certainly be wrong. So let's go back to the 3D model. I'm going to load a different iteration, a newer iteration of the model, and we'll take a look at a couple of different cameras and such. Let's go to that. So I just loaded a slightly newer iteration of the model. Not necessarily better, we're trying to make it better, but a little bit different. But certainly this, we didn't have this new data when this model was put together. But we can use this again to get a better understanding. So this has got a couple different cameras. Cameras have moved around a little bit. We can see some stuff now. In this model, when I loaded it, everything is turned on. So you see ground heights, you see the information graphics, we call them, and we've got them everywhere. So for example, a lot of people want to know, like, what was the ground height here? What was the height of the rooftop? Things like that. So the rooftop shooter information, all that. So all the ground heights and, above sea level measurements are all here and documented. But I like to get rid of that stuff. So I go here and I say, let's get rid of, these graphics and these graphics and these graphics and those graphics and these graphics and those graphics and these graphics and those graphics. And now it kind of cleans it up. The other stuff is like the ground height. So a lot of people want to know the ground height, so it's in the model, but it kind of clutters it up. So I like to get rid of this stuff. So I'm showing you sort of how I do this in real time to get the viewpoints that I'm looking to get when I'm looking at the model, right? So this is kind of how I do it. Now let's go to another camera. This is the shooter camera. And here we can see the alignment, right? And this is how the kid kind of needs to be oriented in order to be shooting at the president, is that way. And he's not. All right, let's go to the podium camera. All right, so here is the shooters on the rooftop. That's the perspective coming from where it appears the shooter in the tree would be, that may have been shooting at these counter snipers up here. So these rooftop trajectories, we can again take them away, put them right. So let's get rid of all these rooftop trajectories. Let's get rid of them. And they're gone. And there's something called a flight path from the roof, and that's because the bullet drops. And so in order to calculate the bullet drop, there's something called a flight path that we added there. So you can take all that stuff away now. Now there's nothing going from him towards the president, towards the corner, but we've got this other set of trajectories, and they're coming from the tree line. And so that's this trajectory other. And so we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of that flight path as well. But that is kind of the important one. So I'm going to put it back for a second just to make it so that it's a little easier for you guys to see. And we're going to switch to some other cameras. All right, so here's our shooter on the roof. Here's our overview camera of the scene. Here's our south bleacher camera. Here you go. And here's the lucky guy in the corner. And so what we see here is a Trump gesturing. The kid on the roof over there. Trump gets clipped in the ear. The lucky guy's in the corner, and the railing gets hit. And it appears the railing got hit because somebody's shooting at these guys on the rooftop. And we can look from, again, let's pick the stage area camera. Here you go. Here's Trump. And we swing over here. And there's your guy in the corner. And now the graphic that's all orange here, this is the trajectory flight path stuff. So that's the flight path of the bullet showing how much drop it had. And that's how we put that stuff in there. All right, so this hot pink line here is the bullet that hits the railing. And it appears that the bullet that hits the railing came from the tree line out there, not the water tower. All right, so a shot from the tree line towards these Secret Service counter snipers on the rooftop over here that misses them, passes between them, ends up going down the back row of the bleachers. And this was the finding that I, suggested when I went on Dark Horse Podcast. And I said to Brett, it's kind of crazy. I don't know what to tell you, but it looks like the shooter's in the trees. everybody in that back row flinches. Right? You guys remember the flinch? We see one guy tumble. One guy falls down. We see the corner of the railing get hit. And I just kind of made a line and traced the line back. And so this is kind of weird. The line intersects with these Hercules counter snipers over here on this rooftop. Almost as if somebody was shooting at them. And I'm like, somebody's probably shooting at them. And then you keep drawing the line out. Now here, the line has to be straight because of the way this Babylon thing works, but it's actually an arc. So the way bullets travel, when you fire it, you're actually shooting upward a little bit, and then the bullet's going to drop. And so it's more of an arc here. So this is not a good representation of where the bullet would have come from at the tree line as far as this particular pink line. And so this is why, we get rid of those. So we've got a shot coming from the tree line, potentially at these guys on the rooftop. All right. And then the question is the kid on the rooftop shooting at the other pair of counter snipers here? And I believe he is. I think that's the whole point, is he's shooting at them and they shoot back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They take 5 rounds and they're like, that's it. He's over. He's done. Boom. And that's it. So if the kid on the roof is shooting at these guys, that makes a lot of sense. He's lined up towards them. They shoot him in the mouth. Those are the guys who shoot him, not these other guys. They can't see him. These guys on the rooftop that's closest to AGR, they're the ones who turn towards the trees. So this is when, Vanessa Broussard says, hey, these guys are turning towards the trees. It appears that's where the gunfire is coming from. She's talking about these guys. So these guys turn towards the trees. The other guys shoot the kid on the rooftop. And I think he was shooting at them. I think that's what this whole alignment thing is about. Is that, from where he is, he can't see these guys on this rooftop. They're impossible for him to see. And, I think this is changing the whole makeup of this. So in other words, if he's not the one who's shooting at the president, and the shots aren't coming from the rooftop at David Dutch, at Copenhagen, etc., because that's not who he's aiming at, well then, where did these shots come from, right? And that introduces, a whole nother bag of worms, right? So where would they potentially have come from? The alignment of the ear is very specific. So can't be too far off of that trajectory line, right? So if it's not the kid on the roof, it's not going to be the second floor up there where Greg Nichols was, because the president wasn't looking over there. So it's where the president's head was. It's pretty close to looking at AGR. He said he was not looking at the Jumbotron, or he would have been, shot in the other temple. So the alignment with the right ear, that means it's, within just a couple degrees there. We don't have a lot to work with. So it has to be coming from that vicinity. And the question is, is there a shooter on one of the tractors? Is there a shooter in the crowd? It just opens up a whole new aspect of this, is that potentially the kid on the rooftop didn't shoot anybody. Hypothetically speaking, of course. I'm John Cullen. Thanks for joining.